I don't want to know about that. Yes, I find photos is rather bizarre. I haven't quite got my brain around how it organises things yet. That's
yeah.
So that's got years, collections, and moments. Right, that's working. So I'm puzzled by my collections view, which is missing some photos, and I don't know why, because they're there. If I look at it down as a moment, they're just not there as a collection. Okay. All right. So I've got the. I don't know quite the best way of doing this because we've got basically two different Mac models, and that one's going to need an adapter. Right. My laptop needs a different adapter. Just remembered. It's too old. Doesn't have built-in HDMI. Okay, so I have in front of me photos with my entire photo library on it at the moment. So if I go back to the top view of years, you can see I've got photos, digital photos going back as far as 2002. I was using a what? An Olympus C5050, if I remember right. Yeah, 3 megapixel camera for many years until I got my first iPhone in. You can tell because the dates. Notice the location suddenly starts to appear on my photos. Up to 2008, it's only showing the year, but then in 2009, it's starting to reveal information about where the photos were taken. So basically, the ones I've taken with my iPhone have automatically been tagged with a GPS location, so they have turned up in my library with location details. Everything older than that doesn't have it unless I've manually edited it, which I haven't bothered in most cases. I do, however, have a Panasonic 16-ish megapixel camera, or just not a high-end one, just a little point and shoot type thing, but it's got quite good zoom on it. So I tend to use that one for occasionally if I'm not using my phone, if I want a few better characteristics than the phone can achieve. But these days I tend to mostly just be randomly taking a few photos from time to time. So the number of photos I took was quite dense around 2003-04, and then it quietened down a lot in more recent years, apart from when I actually go and do something which I then remember to take photos on. So it's been a bit quiet last year, for example. So obviously Photos is Apple's sort of built-in standard software. It has been now since early 2015, March I think is when Apple introduced it in Yosemite. And as it is part of the operating system, like Mail and a few of the other standard applications, it gets updated with new features as part of an OS upgrade. So the particular operating system version that you are running determines the feature set that you have in Apple Photos, and each version they've added more and more functionality to it. So what we're looking at right now is Photos running on macOS Sierra, which is 10.12, so that's Photos version 2.0. I've got my High Sierra computer next to me. That one's got window, Photos version 3.0, so they obviously think it's a major version improvement for one operating system update. So we'll initially I'll just use this one for reference, but at some point I'll switch over to the other one so you can see how some things are different. They have made some improvements. One of the things they've been gradually adding back is features that were in iPhoto which were removed from early versions of Photos have gradually been resurfacing. So for example, it is now possible with the latest version to edit a photo in an external application, which can then save it in a way that it can automatically come back into the Photos application. But in order to do that, it's got to support the mechanism that Apple's using. So if you have, like, for example, an old version of Photoshop, it might not work, but a new program like Pixelmator or something like that, which is specifically designed to support it, can do that sort of thing. So it's a question of which ones have got the right plugins and support the right feature set. Apple's also been adding the ability for third-party programs to add extensions to photos. So if I come down here somewhere and find a reasonably innocuous photo from a concert I went to, let's find a more interesting one to look at, such as that's a panorama shot of the crowd. It's videos, they're mostly videos. I'll just see if I can find a less. That'll look. There's a general scenery shot rather than a. It was the Taupo concert last January with Bonnie Tyler, Alan Parsons, and Icehouse, all-day concert. Got to sit in the sun all day and had heat stroke practically by the end of the day. We had to go and find some shade, even though we'd been drinking copious amounts of water, sun hats, and so forth. So just as an example, that's a photo I've already got. Does it know where it was? It does. So that must be one I took with my iPhone, because it's showing me here under places exactly where the photo was taken, which is in the domain area at the northern end of Taupo next to the Waikato River, if you're at all familiar with Taupo. Show nearby photos will reveal I took 41 in that general area, and I can zoom out and you can get a general idea of the area that we were in at time, and then you start to see photos are taken in other places in the country as you zoom out further and amalgamate them if it can't fit them all into one place. So it's actually quite handy if your camera is able to show location information or record location information. So most of my photos, not surprisingly, have been taken in Wellington. The rest have been a few places I've been on holiday for the most part. So we've been up to Golden Bay, around the Nelson area, quite a few in Christchurch, quite a few down in Otago because my father was living down there. I came from Christchurch originally. We've been to Hamilton recently to visit my partner's son's father who's living in Hamilton, and we've been to Auckland recently as well, so there's a few up there. So let's, if I go back to there.
You can add locations to an existing old photo that hasn't got that.
You can manually. I haven't actually gone hunting for how you do that, but I think you can just place a pin on a map, for example, and tell it this photo is here, and you can even go and modify it after the fact if it was slightly out. Certainly iPhoto could do that, and I expect that's there in photos. I just haven't gone hunting for it. So if I go back to one of my early photos, faster to do that if I go back a level, and again, which I know the location of. I'll see if I can work out how to do it. Where was some good ones? Yep, that'll do. One of my mini cat photos. If I go into details, no. If I go into info, assign a location. There you go. So it's under info. And what I can do for that is say 13 Bedford Street in, no, Wellington, thank you, Northern Wellington. There we go, that's close enough. So that's easy enough, and I can then come along here and edit that because it's a manually assigned one. I'm not sure if I can for the GPS ones, but that means that that photo will now be placed on a map if I close that and come back and do it again. Go details. Yep, there it is. That now shows as a photo in the right location as the other one did. I don't know. This one's Panther Charlotte, her name was. Was my downstairs neighbour's cat, kitten. She had two of them. One was called Panther, which is very appropriate because at the time the current operating system, Mac operating system, was called Panther. So I have photos somewhere in here, apart from the photos of me shaving my beard off, of Panther and Charlotte. There's Panther. So for a while I had that one as my background desktop picture. Panther was an old boy and Charlotte was a young girl. Remember that much? There was Charlotte next to my camera bag, so for scale, so she's not very big.
David, when you open that file, it says below related photos. Yeah. Is there any way of controlling those?
This one along the bottom? Oh, maybe it's location based. If I go back up to the one I just did, which was that one, was it? Yeah. Related. Okay, well that one is automatically generated by photos by working out the context, and it's worked out that there is a cat in that photo, and it showed me a whole bunch of other things I got with cats in the photo, and other ones which don't seem to be directly connected. So for example, that one is my partner's son Matt. We went to Kitten Inn, and he's playing with the kittens. I don't know why it's picked that one or that one. All these ones by location. That one's got a cat in it, so it's probably right. It may have done a sort of an indirect influence. This cat appears in the photo in this location, therefore this is probably related because it's somebody else who often appears in photos at this location. And
They have closer location, don't
no,
they?
like this is in Johnsonville or Newlands compared to Northland.
Well,
Wellington, but that's most of my photos of Wellington, so that doesn't narrow it down much.
And Panther, will it count for other photos of Panther? As opposed to
yes.
Got it.
Lens information. Where do I can put a description in there, can't I? So where's the there's the title at the top, isn't it? It's that one. Now, which one's the title? Is it that one? Yeah, that's it. So the title, I'll call that one Charlotte. And it may be able to, there we are, so that now shows up at the bottom there. If I put one under here for Panther, just so that one there we'll call Panther. That will do. So it may find similar ones. If I name that one also Panther, try typing it right, it might on this day, don't know why it's picked those again, but it's sort of like mostly cat photos. So let me try something which is not a cat photo. So I start with a group photo. Let's try that one. It's related. Thinking about it. Yep, now it's found other photos I've got with the same people in them. Everybody in those suggestions is in that photo except for Matt. He's not related to that one as far as I can tell. The rest of them are other events that the same group of people were on, or many of them. So it's often quite clever. It may not know so well if it's a less obvious thing like a cat or a location. But in that photo, there are a combination of workmates and close friends, and many of those and myself. So people, if I'm in a photo with other people, it might think they're related. So that may be why Matt showed up, because he's in photos of me in some places. So it's probably picked up. There's an indirect connection again. If I look at a scenery photo, preferably one that's actually got a location, so it might have a chance. Because if it's random photo, it has no idea where it is. So if I come down a bit further, there we are. Let's see what that one suggests. That's obvious where it was. So it's the railway sign at Waipiata, which is in central Otago. That's where my father lived. Related? Nope, they're not related. None of those are related in any way, shape or form. It looks like it, yeah, for the most part. Yeah. It seems to have done a few, it's a bit random, but yeah. Yes. Where's that? Which group of photos is that particular one? That was from, oh no, that was 2004, so that one is still not the ones that have enough information. If I go back a level and scroll down to ones that I recognise, Johnsonville, Otago, here we go. Find me one that I know the location of. Back in Wellington again and back in Otago again. Random scenery shot in the middle of nowhere in Otago. There we go. That looks like part of the Lord of the Rings scenery actually, because it was in the same general area by coincidence. Now it's not got a location. There we go. Now it knows what it's talking about. So the problem with the previous one, this is on the road from Middlemarch to Outram, if I remember right. Yeah, so there's Payrau, and then further south the road goes Logan Burn. Where are we? Yeah, so there's the road that this is off the edge of, I think, somewhere up here anyway. Where am I? Hyde to McRae's Road. Yeah, I took a few photos at the gold mine over there. So it's picked up all the ones that were in the same general location. I go back to... Yes, okay, that's easy. That's easy to see where we are now. So I've actually got the map to work with. So this particular photo was taken... Where's it gone? There, right. I lost it. So which road is that on? Oh, that was actually in the south end of the Maniatoto then. Ranfield, yes, it is. It's a different area to what I'm thinking of. Okay, so that's showing me now, because that photo has a location, it's showing me relevant, reasonably relevant. Not all of them. Again, don't know why that one's there, except that there's a people-to-people connection. But the rest of them, for the most part, are trips in the general area, except Tasman. Again,
And Mount Perth is a little...
again, it's people-to-people connection, I think, because that particular photo that it's suggesting there has actually got my partner poking her head through the sign at the Tui factory. So she's connected with me through other photos, etc. So it's trying to be too smart for its own good. Okay.
Can you delete, like, have those not show?
Unless there's a preference for it. You can turn off show holiday. No, that's relevant. It's about the only thing I can see. Probably not. It's sort of photos trying to be clever and show you possibly related things. Can you do anything with them? You can just ignore them, not actually look at them. Yeah.
If you went into info or whatever and removed the location.
Well, then it would show you other random things. That's all. So it always shows you something there. It may or may not be relevant.
Photos and it's got a sign on everybody saying unknown.
Yes, well, I've gone through and done faces as well. So if I go and look at
What if you click on
people.
Photos, just taken that photo, or is it taken part of the collection?
So, for example, if I find Matt, since we know what Matt looks like, where's he gone? Matthew, there he is. So it'll show me all of a whole selection of photos with Matt in them. And then it's doing the same thing. It's showing locations where I've taken the photos, related photos with people that seems to see in those connections again. Photos including groups with them in them, that sort of thing. So it's not showing me all of the photos, but it's
Grown up a bit, isn't it?
yes, but yeah, at least. Well, the first time I took a photo of him, coincidentally, was when he was 5, and he's now 17, about to turn 18. So yes, but we've been living in the same house since he was 10. 11, I think, no, 10 and a half, yeah, so it's grown up a bit, certainly. Yep. Yeah, so the faces thing, this has all been inherited from iPhoto. I haven't actually done a lot of the tweaking of metadata and photos. I did an awful lot in iPhoto earlier, so I'd named all my family members and that sort of thing, so I had them all sorted, and it's all imported it perfectly happily. So I don't have large numbers of untitled people in the earlier photos because I went to the trouble of actually naming them all. So if I go back to photos again and find that group, if I find ones with... Yep, there we are, that one's all I'm looking for, group photo 2, and I want to see... Yeah, see, it's got people's faces showing up. There we go, so you can actually point to the person and it highlights them in the photo. That's cute. Jacob, Chris, Leonie, yes, don't know who that is, and doesn't know who half the other people are, but what I'm wondering is, does photos have like an iPhoto, show everybody's faces underneath them kind of thing? I can't see an obvious way of doing it, but there might be a way of setting that up. That's adjustments, editing and so on, yep. And details just takes you down to there, so it shows the people that it's recognised in the photo. Ethan, etc. Now, I've only named about half the people, I think, in that one, because I don't know several of them, but I know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them at least. So, and the dog. Yeah. So I'm not sure where that particular iPhoto feature where it had a little person's name underneath them. Show faces. Get tools. Edit. Not obvious. It's not something I've explored much. I'll show face names. There we go. So that's unnamed, so I can come in there and just type in Ethan. Yep, that's him. That's Lynn. I don't have her anywhere else, so there's not a lot of point. And that's Lynn's mother, whose name I've forgotten. That's Lester, but it hasn't recognised a face. How do you add a face then? Because that's hide face names, show face names. There, metadata. No, I'm not sure how you add a face, because like in iPhoto you could actually drag a circle over somebody to say, oh, this is actually a face here you haven't spotted. Well, there's
It's
no...
amazing some of the things that will identify as faces too.
Yeah. Yes, I know, elbows is one I was very amused by in early. So that's Lester there.
Like a lawnmower.
So what I'm trying to do is how do I can get rid of one if that's not actually a face, that's easy, but how do I add a face is what I want to know. Plus... No, that's for... I don't want to get info, I want to try and add a face to it. You'd expect there'd be something you could do. Yes, well, I don't know her name. She's one of Kathy's lodgers at the time, so I probably get Kathy to tell me. But Kathy no longer works with me, so that makes it tricky. I don't see her as often. Edit. Rename face. No, there's probably a way of editing it by adding a face, but I just haven't found that feature. So it's there somewhere, but I just don't know what they've done with it. I haven't done. Well, that's used for creating albums, etc. That's sort of adding this photo to a new sort of organisational tool, like a print or a book or something like that. Mark is a favourite, I understand. That's for editing the photos, so that's got all of the major categories of retouching and adjusting and filtering, so I could adjust the light levels and that sort of thing. In each of those, what's that do? Revert to original. That's enhance, rotate, filters. Yeah, there you go. So you can add filters to it. You can do all the adjustments, and that's got each of these has got collapsible subsections, so you can just sort of do it as a simple setting, or you can expand them to get individual controls. As I discovered when we've managed to find, I was visiting Rex recently, and we couldn't find the adjustment for shadows, which turns out to be hidden inside the light adjustment, and by default in the High Sierra version of photos it hides the details, but in the Sierra version it shows them, or at least we had them shown, so we didn't know where it had gone, but it turns out it was just obscured. And you can also add more if you've got, there's actually several more you can add as well there, but that's all just adjusting content of the photo, it's not actually metadata related. So black and white, that's intensity, neutral, tone and grain. So you can fiddle with all that stuff separately. I don't want to adjust the photo too much.
So somewhere you go and pick up a circle and take.
Yeah, I would expect so. But what's that one? That's retouch, right? Yep, and extensions markup is not really appropriate. No, that's to add scribblings on the photo, that sort of thing. So cancel that. So I don't think it's in there. You'd expect you should be able to go drag or something, but that drags the photo. Or right click or something. If there's no add face command somewhere, double click. No, that gets you out of it. So it's got to be there somewhere, but
Control click.
well, that's what right click is, same thing. So
Produce a little ring around.
well, that's because it already knows that there's a face there. It's inherited that one from somewhere else. So that's the information I got from my photo. So it's showing the existing ones. What I want to do is add a face to Lester. And I don't know how to create a new one. And it's not particularly obvious. So there's no particularly obvious command. Like there's where the hide face names was. There's no add face command next to it. Option, perhaps?
So it's showing in the photo.
That's if you can hide photos in your photo library, and then they don't show up in the main list. So if you have any photos you don't want other people to see, for example, you can hide them, and then show hidden photo album will reveal them all as a photo album called hidden. So that's not relevant for this particular problem. So this might be a case where I have to look up the help. So I'm sure it's there, I just haven't managed to find it. So not under shift.
On Google it says, his open photo, get info and press the plus sign next to add face.
Aha! Thank you. Google to the rescue. So that's how we did it.
Sorry about that.
Thank you, Howard. Yes, I just used the info field. So the only place I didn't look was the plus button next to there, so in the info panel. So there we go. I now have one for Lester. I'll just fix that as I know who it is. Lester Abbey. Yeah. Yeah, he has now passed away, so he's the reason that our company, I had to move office, because he was the managing director of the company. He died unexpectedly nearly 2 years ago, and our company was left in a bit of a limbo, and we finally got taken over eventually. So that's what's the outcome of all that. That was one of our work tramps that we went on out to tramps out to the Rongorongo River from south of Waitangi. Okay, I'm going to go back to. I'm still looking at photos of Chris. Right, Chris has also passed away. One of my school friends, unfortunately, my own age. Okay, so one of the little details I wanted to point out for those who have or are considering buying a new iPhone model, or even a reasonably recent one, the iOS 11 adds support for a new video, both video and still photo file format called HEIF, as Apple pronounces it, H-E-I-F, and HEVC for the videos. And if you have an iPhone 7 or later, if I remember right, and definitely an iPhone 8 or 10, it defaults to taking photos in the new format. And one side effect of this is if you're not running the latest operating system, you are limited in what you can do with the photo. So if I come down to my recent photos, for example, and find, well, there's a nice one of Minerva. This photo was almost certainly taken with my, it is, iPhone 10, and it's in the new file format. Now, what it's done is it's saved a copy of the photo in a format the old version is able to display, but it's not a full quality copy. If I try and zoom that, it probably will be pixelated. And also, there's a little exclamation mark in the corner there, which if I point to that, it tells me unsupported file format. And then updated software required. The original image was captured in an unsupported image format. To view the full resolution photo, you need to upgrade to the latest version of macOS. So in order to be able to fully support these photos, your Mac has to be running High Sierra. So this is basically just the thing to be aware of. Because I'm intending to upgrade to High Sierra, I haven't bothered to do anything about it. And I have got another Mac running High Sierra, so I can work around it temporarily. But there is actually a setting on iOS 11 on the later model phones to say always save the photos in an old file format. So if you know you're going to run into this, you can actually turn off the new file format in effect and force it to use the old file format, which is JPEG in the case of photos. But if I want to try and edit it, the edit button's grayed out. I can't edit the photo. So it's limiting what I can do with it.
What's the advantage of the new version?
Hard to tell at this point. It adds support for some things like burst photos and live photos and the other fancier types in a single file, so they're more efficient, and it's actually it does store the photos more efficiently is the main thing. So it compresses them better without losing quality, which means that you end up saving storage space if you store the photos in the new format, and both on your phone and in iCloud if you're syncing them through iCloud and on your computer. So it's definitely worthwhile. And I'm happy to switch to the new format. I just haven't quite got my computer software up to date yet to handle it properly. So they'll view fine, but at limited resolution. If I find the same photo on here, just to check, what was that?
What happened to your old photos when you start opening them and fiddling with it?
Well, they're fine because they're in the old format. There's only a problem if they switch to the new file format. That's July, September, October, December, January. Here we go.
David, if you were to transfer that onto a stick and go down to Harvey Norman's to get a print,
It would have to export it as JPEG. Not the same photo. I'm trying to find the same photo. I've got many photos of Minerva sitting in boxes and on things, and is it there? Okay, so on my other laptop, if I look at that, it's definitely better quality. It's still not ideal, but I think it's just because of the low light.
So what was the answer in terms of what format to take them to Harvey Norman?
Well, if you've already got into the situation where you've taken one of these photos on a new iPhone in the new file format and your computer is running an old operating system, you may be stuck. You have to actually use your phone to export it in a different format because your computer can't read it in the correct format. It'll only show a low resolution thumbnail. It won't show the full quality photo. So in this case, what I can do is come back onto the phone, find that photo, not far away. Is that the right one? There it is. And I want to go share. And what I want to do is send a copy of this photo. What's the best option in this case? If I go to copy, that just copies it. I don't want to copy it. I want to email it. Interesting, it doesn't actually seem to offer me any options for what to do with it at that point. So that's just editing the content of the photo. There is a setting I know of in settings. Let's just find that. Photos. Clear photo sharing. Where would I summarize photos for you? Okay. Right. Transfer to Mac or PC, the setting is called, and it's given you two options: automatic or keep originals. That's not it. Yes. Automatic is automatically transfer photos and videos in a compatible format, or always transfer the original file without checking for compatibility. So that one, if I transfer it to my computer using a method like image capture, it will then convert it. Because image capture doesn't support the format. So if I run image capture, try typing it properly. Yeah, it is unlocked. There it is, and that is now a much better quality JPEG. It's definitely higher resolution, and that's actually converted it to JPEG. It's a 3 meg JPEG. So the original photo is actually a HEIF format. So if I unplug that, plug it into this laptop, run, it's already asked me if I want to trust the computer, run image capture on the other, on High Sierra, say trust, show iPhone, wait for it. Yeah, I have to trust the computer. I'll try it again. Nope, that's right. I typed my passcode wrong. Right. So I do the same thing on here. Because this is running High Sierra, it supports the new file format. So if but interestingly, image capture doesn't. So if I import that, it appears that what the phone does is when you use that method of accessing the photos, it always converts them because of the automatic setting, it automatically converts it to JPEG, whether or not the computer supports that feature if you use image capture. If I used photos to import it, it might be smart enough to know that the photo was both the computer and the software supported it, so it would keep the new file format. But because I use image capture, it's assuming it doesn't support that format. So image capture at the moment is a way of getting the photo without any quality compromise.
My 6 sensor's got the same automatic. Does that mean it supports?
Well, the setting is there, but not. It doesn't actually have hardware support for taking the photos. It can display them though. So, for example, if you have more than one device and you're sharing your photos via iCloud Photo Library, you could take a photo on an iPhone 7 or 8, display it on an iPhone 6, which will be able to show it in the new file format as long as it's running iOS 11, and still export it in that case. So that's a roundabout case rather than the... so if I look at that one, that's definitely worse quality on my screen than in image capture. I've lost it again. Hang on, bring it back. So hopefully I just want to get them side by side if possible so you can see the difference. So this is the JPEG version rather than the thumbnail enlarged version. Hello. Face ID is a very nice feature when it works. Find the right photo again. It's a recent one. There we go. There's Minerva. So if I double click that one, there's the photo there. So I go back to photos. So there's that bad one. And if I go back to image capture, hide that. Oi. Did image capture take the window away? Just to confuse me. There we go. So there's the background images, the photos view of it, and if I zoom this one up to about the same size, you can see that's high quality. So the JPEG is definitely being converted, basically the existing photo is being converted to JPEG in the process of getting it via image capture. So that one's got a thumbnail copy of the photo, and the original quality copy is in the new file format that isn't supported by this version of Photos, so it can't display it properly.
You're running each new file format.
Yeah.
What does that do to your old photos?
Nothing. It only affects newly taken photos. You could, if you wanted to...
Does it affect photos as an application as such in terms of the old photos?
No. Your existing photos don't get modified in any way. It's only if you take new photos with a new device that supports that file format. Or you run some software which converts photos to that file format.
You can't opt out of the people who've got to use that. If you've got a new phone, you can't say you take these and go.
I think there is actually a setting. I just haven't found it yet. I'm just working out where they've hidden it. That was in Photos, but if I have a look at the camera settings, formats, camera capture, high efficiency or most compatible. So if you turn on you switch it to most compatible mode, then photos taken with the cameras will be in JPEG or MP4 for videos, rather than using the new file format. So it's really a question of what your usage model will be, and what devices you expect to talk to. With the combination of having it in high efficiency format and allowing it to automatically convert it to the right format usually works, except when you're dealing with syncing your photo library. In that case, you need to run the same software or up-to-date software on everything to handle it properly.
There's some efficiency grading or non-grading.
Well, it's a bit better than JPEG, I think, as far as the compression artifacts goes, but it is a lossy compression format still.
And who else is using that?
Oh, it's a general standard. It's not something Apple's invented. At the moment, Apple seems to be leading the charge on it, but I expect that's just a case of they've decided to early adopt a new standard file format because it's got so many advantages over the old standards. So in time, others will continue to also support it, yeah. But at the moment, most others are sticking with, because most operating systems can't handle it, therefore until there's sort of a groundswell of support for it, it's the usual sort of catch-22. Something needs to catch up with it before it'll get there. Okay, so any particular questions that people have on Photos? I'll stop rambling on it now and just get down to any specific. Yes?
Albums, I know we'll talk particularly.
Yep.
How do you actually delete one?
Okay. There's one.
Yeah, well, I've got one without anything in it.
Right, okay. There's one I created. Here's one I created earlier called iPad Test. If I want to get rid of that album, I should be able to just click on it and press delete. Nope. More likely, control click on it and choose delete album.
Control.
Yep. Or select it, go to the file menu or the edit menu. No. No, it's not nowhere obvious apart from in the control click menu.
Can you create it?
We already drag it to. I mean, you could drag it out and off the edge.
You can dump it just as you did with the finder window. Drag it out.
Nope, it's not a drag target. You can't drag it to the doc's trash.
I've got to hit the control.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like or right click or two finger click or whatever it might be, and then choose delete album. Yep. So this is another case of Apple violating their own human interface guidelines, which are basically anything in the contextual menu is supposed to be available in the normal menu bar. This is another example of something which is not. So you have to know about how to use contextual menus. It's not just hiding under a magic key somewhere, is it? Location view shouldn't be. It should be in file or edit. It's not.
And that's not deleting any photos?
No, it's deleting the album. If you did delete a album that had photos in it, albums are only references to the original photo. So you didn't basically delete that list of which photos you had in the list. The original photos are still in the main library. So photos in that case. So that's got all the photos in it. If you delete the photo out of this place, it deletes it everywhere because that's the main copy. And it's also worth emphasizing if you're using iCloud Photo Library to synchronize your photos between your devices. If you delete a photo from your library on one device, it deletes it from the cloud and from your other devices. So it's a shared view of your library rather than being what's on this device. Yeah.
It's just like it's the same as deleting the playlist of music.
Yeah, same concept. Albums are playlists, to use an analogy from iTunes. If you have a smart album is basically a search. So I've got one there which I've taken videos on my Panasonic camera, which I've created previously. So I've got a smart album that I'd already set up with search rules that look for a particular camera took this photo and it's a video or something like that. And that's another case where you have to use the control click to get to the edit command probably. So it's called photo is movie, file name starts with P. So as it happens, the only camera I've got that has file name starting with P is my Panasonic, so that was the easy way to find them. iPhone videos, so that's, what did I choose for that one? Edit smart album. Oh, yeah, they're all image such and such. Yeah, so that was just, it may not be correct, but at least yes, that's pretty accurate. There's a video of Minerva poking her head into a box, which I took recently. Yeah. So yeah, same analogy applies again. So a smart album is just effectively a predetermined search rule for, I want to find all photos that match these criteria, whether it be name or content in some way or something like that.
And they automatically go in there.
Yeah, it just basically finds any photo matching the rules, and it has of course got photos of cats and things like that, which it's found just any photo with a cat in it, for example. Yes, it's adult cats in this case. As a cat category, or any dogs. Some of the cats it thinks are dogs, but there's because I can't tell. That's what's her name? Artemis, our friend's cat who's died recently. And yes, that's a cat, that's a dog. So sometimes I can't tell. Do I have any photos of horses in them? That's a dog. That's a horse, yes, it's found some. Well, actually, that's a statue of a dog, which is debatable.
How many horsepower is that tractor?
Yes. Anything with a tractor in it. Yep. Including steam engines, traction engines and things like that. So yes, the anything with a beach in it. Yep. It's quite freaky, that feature. It's been there for a wee while now, but it's basically recognising the contents of scenes as and has a growing library of keywords that it matches. This photo looks like it's a beach, therefore I'll add it to the beach category. That sort of thing.
They're not actually albums, they're just.
No, that's just randomly picked photos from all over my collection, which it thinks has got a beach in them.
Why are some of them numbered and others not, Dale?
Because the ones that have got file names have got names, and the ones that don't have file, they haven't got titles. So basically, some of the early photos I've taken have ended up inheriting the file name as the title of the photo. So they're showing up with a automatically assigned title, probably created by an early version of iPhoto. Whereas the more recent ones, it didn't assign the file name as title, so I haven't titled them, so they're all blank. So if you point to underneath it, you can see it says untitled next to each one. Whereas that one is the title, so I can come in there and click on that and delete the title, and now it's untitled. But if I click on this one again, since that's got it, and do a get info, you'll see the title and the file name are the same. So that's the only reason it's showing up like that. Okay, any other questions? Now that I've diverged onto that little detail. Margaret, yep.
Combining text with photos, I noticed that where the dates are, you've managed to add some information. I'd just like to know a little bit more about that. But the other thing that would be really handy is if you've got, for example, an itinerary, and that would be in a text file. Like, for example, I'd like to put that in just before my group of photos on Iceland, for example, so that I can, track down what was happening according to the date, instead of having to go.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Can you do that? Can you have an album that's actually
Well, a photo. Let me just find a. If I do a get info, where's that gone? Okay, so looking at what fields are in the info field, so you can have a title. Oh, there you go. There's an example of a file name there. So you can see the HEIC as file name suffix in that case. So so there's no camera information for some reason on this one, even though it was taken with my iPhone. But the description field there is a possible place you might be able to add long form text. So I can type in. Yeah. So I get what you're saying. I just want to give you an example. So as one possibility, so you can have a multi-line scrolling chunk of text in there in description. So description is, and also that will then be searchable afterwards. So that's one possibility if it's a simple enough case. So you could have a designated key photo that sort of starts the album and put a description in it is one way of doing that. As far as I know, I'm not aware of a feature which allows you to say this album has information. So that info field doesn't have anywhere to put anything. There's no associated thing which you can stick text into, unless you attach it to one of the photos. There are, however, other types of.
If I retrospectively took a photo and made a scan of the itinerary so that it was in the form of a picture, say it's a JPEG, then the next possibility then would be to sort of reinsert that back into that date, but it will, of course, want to put it in the date of the scan.
Well, that's right. You can modify the date.
I could modify the date.
Yep.
Make it go in the right place that way.
Yep. There's an adjust date and time command under the image, and also under it says remove location and revert to the original location if they had one. It doesn't have one at the moment.
So that's as well as that.
Yeah. Can you add a sort, download originals, play, duplicate? No, there's no sort of metadata for the album that I can see there, unless that's a feature they've added. Let me just double check.
It would make the text quite small, and so I don't know, modify it, but yeah, I guess that would work. That's the way to go then.
Yeah.
If you create a slideshow of some kind, then just bits of your itinerary.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was keen to do, but pieces of it would be ideal.
You can, of course, turn it into a book, which in the book, if you create a book from the album, the book has laid out pages, and you can actually put text as the content of one of the pages. So that's a rather clunky way of doing it. but that's a possibility.
It's a good way if you're going to be dedicated to making a book.
Yeah, but it's not ideal.
Do a kind of preliminary organisation.
Yeah.
Photos.
Yeah, it's not quite there, is it? So it's sort of like you want to. It's the sort of thing that I would expect that could be added without too much difficulty, but enough people would need to want it before Apple would actually add it. It's
Yeah, so it's really just a matter of changing it to a format that you're allowed to have in photos. So you can't.
you can have PDFs. You can have PDFs and photos. So that's a possibility. You could actually have a PDF, even a multi-page PDF, as an item in the book, in the album. Sorry.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that's all right.
Yeah.
Can you actually export that to put it onto a drive to give to somebody rather than have the book printed?
You're talking about in the book.
If you set up a book and go through the process prior to ordering it, can you save it as an independent?
I had never tried. I would expect that they don't have a way of doing that. You can turn it into a PDF, so you can then give them a PDF of the book. You can't give them the book in an editable form, though, because that's yeah, certainly. That's you don't have to buy the book. You can actually use the book creation tool to construct the layout and then print it yourself if your printer's good enough. So. Just use the normal print features. Yeah, I think the PDF idea, getting back to Margaret's question, is definitely the best way of doing it. So you just use TextEdit or something, write the text you want, print the PDF, and then import that into the photo as a photo, and then add it to the album. Or take a photo of the notes, sort of a bit like this, if you can imagine. That was notes about the particular album. Yep. Speaking of which, I should just mention quickly that I have a spare scanner I want to dispose of if anybody might want a portable document scanner, battery powered with a built-in Wi-Fi. I've got 2 of them now since I bought a later model, so that one's surplus requirement. Sorry?
2 shillings?
2 shillings? Yeah, I have to look out what it cost me and things, so work out what's a reasonable price. But it's quite a clever little gadget. It's a single-sided sheet feed scanner, up to A4. So just it's not high quality. It's about 600 DPI or something like that. I can't look it up. But if anybody might want one, then I just thought I'd bring it along at least tonight because it's currently in my potentially trade me disposal pile. So if anybody might want it, that would be so one less thing for me to deal with. But it's not going anywhere in the meantime. So at least if you let me know you might be interested, then I can give you more details. Okay. So next questions. Any other questions on photos or sort of general discussion? Other problems that people have run into. No?
How do you turn the actual date headings on and off? Because sometimes they're on and sometimes they're off, and I don't know how.
That depends on which view you're looking at, possibly. If you're looking at
photos, and usually I see the dates, but sometimes I just see a photo. So.
well, like depending on whether you're in years, collections, moments, then you'll see different headings, and it varies depending on whether your photos have got location information or not. So those ones, for example, have got location, so it's showing a date range. If I go in one level deeper, then it's down to moments which are usually on a single date. But if I look at all photos, which is an album, then it does not show the dates individually. It's showing me all my photos as an entire collection mixed together in order. So that particular view doesn't show you any date information. So whereas this one up top does, that gives you at least in moments, it gives you a reasonable idea of what the dates were.
So all photos are just random.
Well, they're not random, they're in order. They can be, it's fixed as keep sorted by oldest date added. It doesn't have any ability to sort it. So they are, if I go back to the beginning to check, because I know what my first photo was, nope, they aren't in any particular order. Because there's photos I got older than that. I don't know what the order is there, but they're not in. They're roughly in. the right order, but I know that that's not my entire photo collection. So where's the oldest one gone? Yeah, 25th of December 2002. So that's photo of my mum and stepfather is the first one I took. So my new camera. So I don't know why they're not showing up in all photos unless it's sorted them differently.
Does it begin after iPhoto is finished?
No, definitely not, because most of these photos are taken back when I was using iPhoto, and some of these are out of order. Like that one is 2010, whereas this one down here, these ones down here were much earlier, 2004. So the order is not immediately obvious to me.
Keep sorted by oldest date.
Its definition of added is peculiar, because they would have all been an iPhoto, and I definitely didn't add photos in 2010 after I added photos in 2004, because I added them back when I took them, roughly. They'll probably make sense towards the end, but yes. Yes, the last ones are in order that I took them. Yeah, I'm not sure what the logic is there. That was
the early versions of iPhoto always used to have the number underneath the photo, but the new one doesn't.
The number? Which number?
What, the JPEG number.
The title? No, it doesn't.
It
Because
doesn't now, but it
no.
used to.
iPhoto may have, yes, but it's not particularly useful information, because unless you're working directly with the raw files, which they don't want you to do, they want you to work with it visually and export the photos as you need them, or edit them from within photos, that sort of thing. So
If you've got to look up something, you've got to end up looking up the inquiry to find out what the number is.
But yeah, but that's what the info command's for. It tells you there. It's always available. It's just a question of where you go to see it. They don't bother displaying it because it's rare that you'd actually need to know that. Normally, the title that you've given the photo is more interesting than the automatically generated name that the camera's given the photo.
It doesn't put the title number either, though, does it?
Yes, it does. That one's configurable. You can turn it on and off. So titles is currently on, but I haven't actually done titles for most of my photos, so that's why they're not showing up. And you can add keywords as well. I'll type favourite reference file. Best reference file, there you go. What's that? No, that didn't do what I expected. Not sure what that means. Didn't do what I expected. View, location. Right, so that gives a little pin in the corner of it has a location. That's not particularly useful metadata. Yeah, I don't know what the reference file thing does.
But if you're looking for a particular one.
Yep, okay. So, yeah.
HDR reference photo.
HDR is high dynamic range.
Occasionally gets turned on.
Yeah, it's a setting on the camera basically, whether or not it's turned on, or automatic, but then it needs it.
What does it mean in terms of, like, you have two photos, one had HDR
Right.
in the corner?
Yeah, there we go, those two there. So, right, so that's the photo which has been taken normally, and the next one, wherever it's gone, is HDR. So it's a bit more vivid. And that one's, you can see Suzanne's face looks a bit more natural coloured in the HDR version, whereas that one's very washed out because the sun's shining on her face. So HDR means basically the camera is able to compensate for. It gives you a wider range of saturation. I'm not sure what the correct technical term is, but it's effectively able to cover a wider range of light levels and combine them into a single photo. So it's actually doing it by taking multiple photos of different exposures and producing an amalgamated photo.
Gobbles up a bit more space.
Yeah, and normally there's a setting which decides if it's going to do that, whether it also saves an unmodified copy, I think. So that's why I've got two of them. So the camera actually took a normal photo and another photo, produced an HDR version and saved two copies, one normal and one HDR version.
So
Okay.
generally,